Greetings, commanders and historians, and welcome to a unique storytelling experience. This tale is an unofficial fan-created story inspired by a memorable match from our 1,000 subscriber special GrimDark Future Tournament. The match featured Devious leading the formidable Jackals against Mr. J commanding the steadfast Dow Union. It was a battle replete with tactical gambits and dramatic turns of fortune. Intrigued by the narrative potential of their clash, I've transformed the highlights and pivotal moments of their encounter into a riveting story. It was my hope to not just bring you a recounting of the game, but a saga that captures the spirit and excitement of the battle. I hope you will all enjoy this journey into heroism, strategy, and the unforeseen twists of fate that define the grimdark universe we love so much. Without further ado, allow me to present the Defenders of the Fractured Wall. The city of Baybrook emerged from the darkness, its silhouette etched against the creeping sunlight. The first rays of dawn cast long, stretching shadows across the scarred visage of the city, revealing the aftermath of conflict that had recently torn through its streets. Once a beacon of commerce and a showcase of technological marvels, Baybrook now bore the unmistakable marks of siege and battle. The city's walls, once proud and unyielding, were pocked and marred by the artillery fire of unseen enemies. These walls now stood as silent witnesses to the devastation wrought upon them. Amidst the quiet that followed the tempest of war, there was an uneasy peace. The citizens of Baybrook who had weathered the storm moved with cautious deliberation. Their steps were hesitant, as if the very ground beneath them might once again erupt into violence. They were a people in recovery, their eyes wary, their spirits tempered by loss and forced resilience. High above the waking city in the barracks of the Dow Union lay Ukos, the grunt leader of the spotter squads Alpha and Beta, his bunk an island of solace in a sea of uncertainty, cradled his weary body for a few precious moments more. The mid-dawn silence afforded him a brief respite, a fleeting escape from the weight of command that rested upon his shoulders. Yet, even here, in the quiet, Ukos' mind roamed the battlefield of memories. Replaying the costly victory against the devout sisters, each thought was a specter of what had been sacrificed, a tally of the cost paid in blood and valor. His morning contemplation interrupted by the routine chirp of his comm device. It was a sound as familiar as the morning's light, signaling the start of another day's vigilance. He glanced at his device, already knowing the contents of the message without needing to read it. The orders were routine, a daily directive that had become as much a part of his life as the uniform he wore. "Conduct standard reconnaissance of the desert outskirts," it read. A task as mundane as it was necessary. The desert, with its secrets and silent threats, required constant vigilance, even when the ghosts of yesterday's battles still lingered. Rising from his bunk, Ukos cast a last look at the quiet barracks. The room was still, save for the soft breathing of his comrades, each lost in their own battles fought in dreams. He felt a momentary pang, a wish for just a few more moments of peace. But duty awaited, its siren call ever insistent. With a quiet determination, Ukos began the ritual of preparation. His movements were precise, each piece of equipment familiar in his hands. As he donned his armor and checked his gear, the weight of command settled upon him once more. He was a leader, a guardian of Baybrook, and his resolve was as the wall of the city, scarred but standing. Gathering his squad, Ukos relayed the morning's orders with a calm authority. Their faces, a mirror of his own fatigue, yet they were ready for the day's task ahead. Together, they moved with a purpose, their steps a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Dow Union. As they made their way to the outer walls of Baybrook, the city began to stir, its citizens emerging from the shadows of the night. The squads moved through the streets, a silent promise to those they passed, a vow of protection, of vigilance. The ruins of the outskirts loomed before them, a stark reminder of the cost of war. Yet, amidst the rubble and the ruin, there was life, a defiant spark that refused to be extinguished. Ukos and his squads reached the top of the wall, their eyes scanning the horizon. The desert stretched before them, an expanse of umber sands and jagged rocks, alien plant life casting eerie shadows in the early light. It was a land of hidden dangers, a canvas on which countless chapters of conflict had been written. Ukos felt the familiar stirring of anticipation, the adrenaline he always felt when looking out over the desert. It felt like it was waiting for him, waiting to test him in new and unknown ways. Utilizing their advanced optics, Ukos and his squads scanned the horizon, their eyes searching for any sign of life. The desert, ever deceptive in its tranquility, offered no clues, its secrets buried beneath layers of heat and dust. With a sigh, Ukos signaled for Squad Beta to join him in the first patrol of the day through the desert. Happily, Squad Alpha stayed on the wall, continuing their surveillance. Squad Beta, with Ukos at the lead, jumped down from the wall, even with their landing cushioned by their standard-issued mechanical enhancements. The impact forced grunts out of the men. As they advanced, leaving the city's protective embrace behind, the desolation of the desert sprawled before them. The powered highway, a lifeline that cut through the barren expanse, promised speed and efficiency, but also bore the risk of exposure to unseen threats. As they sprinted over the highway, that strategic artery of powered travel, evidence of a disturbance became visible. Large canine-like tracks marred the surface of the sand, a silent and recent sign of an unexpected presence in the umbered land. Ukos motioned for the squad to halt, his gaze following the tracks as they led away from the highway. The tracks were fresh, suggesting their maker was not far ahead. With a hand signal, he directed the squad to fan out, their formation ready for any sign of danger. The silence of the desert was oppressive, broken only by the soft crunch of boots on sand and the distant howl of the wind. The squad moved with precision, their eyes vigilant and pulse weapons at the ready. The tracks led off in the direction of the recently damaged and abandoned Dow Union bombardment cannon, its imposing silhouette jutting out against the barren landscape. The weapon, capable of leveling city blocks with its devastating firepower, used to be part of Baybrook's powerful defense network. As the spotter squad Beta, led by Ukos, traced the quickly eroding trail through the umber sands, the alien landscape of rock columns that pierced the sky offered a grim backdrop to their mission. The desert, with its eerie silence and vast emptiness, seemed almost a prelude to the ominous discovery that awaited them. The tension in the air was palpable as they approached, and what they found sent a chill through the very marrow of their bones. A unit of jackal elites, notorious for their brutal efficiency and unyielding discipline, had not only discovered the bombardment cannon, but had taken control of it. The artillery, a looming titan of destruction, was now ominously aimed at Baybrook. The urgency of the situation left no room for hesitation. Ukos was about to relay the critical information back to command when the air was shattered by the deafening roar of the bombardment cannon. The world seemed to explode into chaos as the first bombardment struck, the shockwave reverberating through the desert and reaching the wall of Baybrook with merciless precision. The impact was catastrophic, the city's gate and the surrounding wall bearing the brunt of the assault. From his vantage point, Ukos witnessed the horror. As Squad Alpha was caught off guard, the squad scrambled for cover amidst the flying debris and dust cloud. But not all made it. Some fell where they stood, victims of the relentless shelling. With grim resolve, Ukos signaled Spotter Squad Beta to fall back, to return to the city's defenses with all the speed they could muster. Every second counted now,
and the defense of Baybrook depended on their swift action and the information they carried. Kicking up dust from their hurried retreat, Ukos, with a steady hand despite the turmoil churning within, keyed in the urgent message to Central Command. The dire report outlined the grim reality. The Jackals had commandeered the bombardment cannon, and the initial attack had already inflicted severe damage. With the city's defenses compromised and the enemy at their doorstep, the need for reinforcement was not just urgent, it was critical for their survival. As the message was dispatched, racing through the airwaves to summon aid, Ukos set his jaw. The resolve in his heart mirrored the determination set of his squad's faces. They were soldiers of the Dow Union, defenders of Baybrook, and they would stand their ground until help arrived. The rubble of what once was the formidable barrier now lay in ruins, unable to resist the bombardment cannon's devastating power. Ukos, leading the remnants of the spotter squad Alpha, was also on high alert for other survivors when the chaotic environment was pierced by the unmistakable war cry of the Jackals. The vanguard of the Jackals was upon them, beast riders joined by their fearsome hounds, a sight that chilled the blood of even the most seasoned warriors. The air crackled with energy as the two forces clashed, the desolation around them a grim arena for this dance of death. Ukos and his men, outnumbered but never outmatched, met the beast riders with a ferocity born of desperation and duty. The pulse rifles in their hands spoke in deadly whispers, each shot a beacon of defiance against the advancing tide. The spotter drones, faithful companions in the heat of battle, darted through the chaos, their targeting assistance turning the tide, if only momentarily. A few of the hounds fell, their demise halting the charge of the beast riders and sowing a moment of disarray among the Jackals' ranks. It was a small victory, but in the shadow of the looming siege, any sign of hope was a precious commodity. Ukos, seizing upon the fleeting advantage, rallied his men with a voice that cut through the din of battle.
"Hold the line,"
he commanded, his words a bastion against the fear that threatened to engulf them.
"Reinforcements are coming."
In the heart of the defenders, Ukos' call ignited the flames of courage, a reminder of what they were fighting for. The line, though battered and bruised, it held, each soldier standing as courageous defenders of Baybrook. As the clash continued, the air thick with the stench of ozone and the cries of the wounded, Ukos and his squad stood resolute. They were the thin line between survival and annihilation, and they would hold until the very end, or until reinforcements broke through the encroaching darkness to lend their strength to the defense of Baybrook. The battlefield strewn with the remnant of the fallen and the echoes of pulse rifle fire became a stage for a new horror as the earth itself seemed to rebel. The initial tremors sent a wave of panic through Ukos and his squad, their instincts honed in battle, screaming for cover against an unseen artillery barrage. But as the ground continued to quake without the arrival of explosive shells, a more primeval fear took a hold. It was a great beast, charging with the unstoppable force of a living juggernaut. Its massive form, a dark silhouette against the desert and umber sands, heralded a new level of threat. Ukos, facing the beast, felt a chill of realization. This was no mere animal. This was a monster. This monster was a creature of intelligence, power, and loyalty, embodying the raw might of the Jackals. The odds of surviving such a charge were slim, yet Ukos stood his ground, weapon raised, a defiant figure amidst the chaos. The atmosphere tensed. Even the very air seemed to get out of the way of this charging beast. Then, in a moment that seemed suspended in time, the battlefield's dynamic shifted with the sudden, thunderous arrival of two heavy stealth suits crashing down from the sky. Their impact sent shockwaves through the sand, a dramatic entrance that marked the arrival of the Dow Union's mechanical elites. Oera, piloting one of the suits, emerged as a figure of salvation. The suits, marvels of engineering and symbols the Union's advanced warfare capabilities, engaged the great beast with a force that matched its own. Thrusters ignited, sending them hurtling towards the beast with a calculated ferocity that even the jackals could not ignore. The clash was monumental. The heavy stealth suits, with their advanced weaponry and armor, brought the beast to a temporary halt. The sight of these technological titans battling the raw, untamed power of this great beast was a spectacle of war that transcended the ordinary. Ukos, caught between relief and awe, watched as the battlefield transformed, the tide of the clash shifting in their favor. As Oera and her counterpart maneuvered around the beast, their actions were precise, a dance of death, played out in the shadows of the crumbling city walls. Their arrival had changed the course of the battle, providing Ukos and his squad a crucial reprieve and the opportunity to regroup and reassess. Ukos, bolstered by this unexpected support, prepared to rally his squad once more. Together they faced the renewed conflict, their hearts fortified by the knowledge that they were not alone in this fight. Yet the distant rumble of the bombardment cannon's second salvo threatened to end their courage once more. The very air seemed to quiver with the force of the impending onslaught. Ukos' eyes narrowed. His instincts, honed by countless battles, sprang to life. He signaled his squad to ready their position. The skies darkened as the cannon's fury was unleashed. A deadly rain of shells aimed with precision to obliterate Ukos and his forces. It was in this moment of dire peril that the battle suits arrived. Their timing was impeccable, their presence a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. As the shells bore down upon them, the squad deployed their shield drones, another marvel of the Tau Union's technological might. These drones hummed to life, casting a protective barrier over the defenders. The bombardment's wrath nullified against their shimmering shields. No sooner had the dust settled from the averted disaster than an old threat re-emerged. The Beast Riders, ferocious and unrelenting, charged towards Ukos and his squad. The remaining members of Squatter Squad Alpha and Beta raised their pulse rifles in defiance. Each shot was proof of their training and precision. The Beast Riders fell under the onslaught of superior firepower. In the midst of the chaos, as the Tau Union's forces began to gain the upper hand against the jackals, the air shimmered with a sinister foreboding. Tilora, the elite raider, emerged from the desert like a mirage, with her approach as silent as death itself. Accompanied by mechanical crow swarms, she executed a surprise attack against the battlesuits and the beleaguered members of the remaining spotter squad. The ambush was swift and devastating. The crow swarms, a whirlwind of steel and malice, descended upon the Tau Union's forces. The battlesuits, mighty though they were, found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer ferocity of the attack. Tilora moved through the chaos like a shadow, her dual crystal claws rending through armor and flesh with equal ease. Ukos, witnessing the sudden turn of events, felt a cold grip on his heart. With a roar of defiance, he raised his pulse shotgun, aiming it at Tilora in a desperate bid to turn the tide. But fate, it seemed, had a cruel twist in store. Tilora, her movements a blur of lethal grace, struck with her crystal claws. The pulse shotgun and its wielder cleaved in two, its pieces falling to the sand, silently signaling the end of their lopsided duel. In the shadow of a battle that seemed unending, the confrontation with the muscular juggernaut of the jackals became a focal point. Despite the relentless assault from the Tau Union's mechanical forces, the beast's resilience stood as a show of the wild, untamed power of its kind. Oera and the other pilot, ensconced within their heavy stealth suits, maneuvered with precision and power. Their attacks, though impactful, merely scratched the surface of the beast's formidable hide. The battlefield, littered with the remnants of shattered armors and the echoes of valor, bore witness to this stalemate. Each of Oera's strikes, guided by the hope of victory, met with the implacable force of nature that was her opponent. The great beast, wounded yet unbroken, roared a triumphant call to the jackals, rallying them even as the Tau's meager remaining forces faltered. The ruined walls of Baybrook, now a maelstrom of chaos and despair, reached a new crescendo with the arrival of the Heavy Skimmer. Piloted by an unseen dark elf,
its sleek form cut a menacing silhouette against the sky, a harbinger of doom for the beleaguered defenders. The skimmer's approach, marked by the high-pitched whine of its engines and the sinister glow of its laser cannons, signaled a new phase of this onslaught. As it descended upon the battlefield, the skimmer unleashed its fury. Destroyer beams and laser cannons lit the sky, painting streaks of death across the landscape. The heavy stealth suits, stretched to their breaking point, were left without cover while facing this relentless barrage. A direct hit, a blinding explosion. One of the warriors who had stood as a bulwark for the Tau was now no more. Their fall, a grievous blow to Oera as she stood, the solitary beacon of resistance in the conflict that seemed all but lost. Amidst the wreckage, Oera stood alone, a solitary figure against the encroaching darkness of the jackals. The overwhelming odds did little to dampen her spirit. If anything, they honed her resolve, sharpening it into a weapon of defiance. Her mind, a whirlwind of determination and fear, was anchored by a profound sense of duty to the city of Baybrook and its people. Preparing for a final stand, Oera tapped into the last vestiges of her suit's capabilities. She laid down a barrage, a brilliant display of strategic acumen that momentarily halted the jackal's relentless advance. But this respite was short-lived. The great beast, with a fury unmatched, charged through the barrage, its massive form a blur of speed. With a devastating blow, it shattered the heavy stealth suit's weapons, bringing Oera to her knees. The jackals, led by the cunning Franks and the lethal Tilora, did not pause to savor their victory. With the Tau's defenses effectively shattered, they seized the moment to advance into Baybrook. Their disciplined march through the ruins marked the accumulation of their mission's success. In the midst of this triumph, Oera, trapped within the remnants of her heavy stealth suit, was left to confront a maelstrom of emotions. Failure weighed heavily on her, a tangible presence amidst the desolation of the battlefield. The reality of mortality and its brutal finality settled upon her like a shroud. Surrounded by the evidence of her fallen comrades, her heart was heavy with their loss. She confronted the inevitable. Her last stand, a poignant echo of the sacrifices made by those who had stood before her, was truly in vain. Oera's moment of reflection was cut brutally short. The Heavy Skimmer, in a final act of dominance, turned its lethal armament back towards her. The end, when it came, was swift, a ruthless conclusion to the tale of resistance. The jackals had triumphed, their victory complete. Baybrook, a city of marvel and dreams, had now been breached. Commanders and historians, thank you sincerely for joining me on this narrative journey through the defenders of the fractured wall. Your presence and attention are what makes these tales worth telling. I'm truly grateful for the time we've shared in the vast universe of the GrimDark future. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the story, what resonated with you, what moments stood out, and even what you'd like to see in the future. Your feedback is invaluable, as it not only helps shape the videos going forward, but it also helps build our community. Now, I must address the elephant in the room. It has been quite some time since my last video, and for that, I owe an explanation. Life, as it always has a way of doing, became unexpectedly hectic. Between managing 2 jobs and my duties as a dad, finding moments to craft videos has been more challenging than I anticipated. The passion to create and share is still very much alive within me, but the reality of my current circumstances has slowed the process. I'm striving to find a new rhythm to continue bringing content to you, though it may arrive at a slower pace than before. Your support, your subscriptions, your engagement are all the fuel that drives me to navigate these busy times and still find ways to contribute to the world we all cherish. It's for you, and because of you, that this endeavor remains not only worthwhile, but deeply rewarding. Thank you once again for watching, for your patience, and for your unwavering support. Together, we'll continue to explore the OnePageRules GrimDark future universe, one story at a time. Stay tuned and take care until our next adventure unfolds.